on to another tea time. We're here with Crissy today. I am so excited about this, but let me introduce myself. I am Amanda Prochaska. I am the host of Tea Time, and we love bringing all kinds of different topics to you, mostly related to change management, change adoption, and new this year is we're inviting guests. So Crissy from Robertson Marketing is here with us today. I cannot wait to dive into this conversation. So Crissy, are you here with me? You have your drink of choice?
Oh, and I am literally thrilled to be here.
I love that. I love that. So we were talking before we started about tea. So what are you drinking today?
Okay, so today I am actually drinking Good Earth Sweet and Spicy. It's one of my favorites,
Mine too.
but I'm a little bit of a dork because I love my loose leaf tea as well, and my infuser just delights me so much that occasionally I just perch them in the cup, even if it's not using the infused teas, because it makes me happy.
Okay, can you put it in your cup real quick? Because it's so darn cute. Look at how cute that is. Okay, I need to get one of those. So I have Alice today. My daughter's got me this cup, and I am drinking a strawberry lemon orange blossom because it is the second day of
Mm.
spring. And this is a cold brew. So both Crissy and I are in Vegas. So cold brews are awesome because, the weather here, it works very well. So cheers. We're gonna talk a little bit today. So Crissy and I met each other, gosh, back in the fall. And one thing that as a Wonder Services we love to do is delight people. And you've already mentioned delight in your opening comments, which is amazing. But Crissy, you delighted me.
Oh, that's so kind of you to say.
You did. You did. You walked up to me and you gave me, and I actually have it here. This is how special it is to me. So I have it right here in my drawer is this little cute card. And I've shared this with so many people, but this little cute card after I got off stage, and it says, "You matter." And then there's a little quote on the inside and a little handwritten personal note from you. And I was like, I need to meet this person because that is amazing. Now I have a whole box of them on my
So,
at my desk.
so I almost feel like I need to tell you more about these. So
Okay.
I feel like a lot of what I do is spread love, right? And
Mhm.
connection and using objects to facilitate those moments of human to human connection. And so several years ago, I was introduced to these cards, and I have a couple of different boxes. This one says "You matter," and all of the quotes are related to a theme, or "You've got this" and "You matter."
Yeah.
And they've been such a treasure because sometimes I want to say something to somebody, but I don't have the right words. But having a limited canvas where it's only 2 inches square, I can come up with something to say that much, and it helps me to live up to that good intention to
Yes.
actually say something. And one other one that's been fun that I just found, I'm loving this one, is the "You're Awesome"
Oh,
set. These are so fun. So next time we get together, I'll have
yes.
some for you.
I love that. And so the reason why I wanted you on here today, first of all, I wanted people to get to know you. So we'll do a little bit of an introduction, but I think they're already feeling kind of where you're coming from. Wanted to give an opportunity for you to share a little bit about what you do day in and day out, but then also how does it relate to experiences when people are going through change? I mean, obviously we met at a conference, but I'm sure that's a great place to introduce these concepts to people. But we do a lot of work in change management, change adoption, and these little moments of delight go so far, right? So I want to talk a little bit about that today. We're also maybe going to get into the science behind what you do too.
I geek out on this. I don't know if anybody else is going to enjoy it quite as much as I do, but we can hit the high level of the science and let people know how deep things can go.
Okay, all right. So let's start with an introduction of yourself and your role.
So I have been in promotional marketing since 1999. And so yeah, I think we're going on 3 decades of this, and I
Yeah.
love it so much. Um, Pairing the right products to carry a message and to drive the behavior that you're looking for. So promotional products, branded merchandise, they are vehicles for change because they become physical reminders of intangible things. So when you're trying to influence somebody to make a change or to take some action. A lot of what we do is on the sales side and on the marketing side and influencing behavior with promotional products there. But there's so much alignment between procurement and promotional products just innately. We're both connective tissue inside of an organization.
Right.
I would say that procurement specifically, you guys are tied into the nervous system because what's happening from the leadership down onto the very integral, tips of the fingers inside of an organization.
Mm-hmm.
And promotional products also kind of function everywhere within an organization. They are kind of the connective tissue, less the nervous system, but more, the tools that are used to help facilitate the changes that need to happen to execute the executive's new direction.
So what wowed me about you and our introduction back, it was at ProcureCon, right? Remind me.
Yeah, ProcureCon
Marketing. Yeah. And what wowed me is that so often you see promotional materials, logoed gear, whatever it is at these events, and it's like, here, have a sock. Or, it's like, here, someone take these chargers away from me because I don't want to take them home with me. So you were completely different. Like, this made an impact. It was personal. It was relatable. It really was different. So talk a little bit about the approach that you take to promotional. Promotional goods? How do you say it? Promotional.
So there's so many words. The most generic is swag, stands for stuff we all get.
Yes.
And the problem with that is if you're just getting stuff and it's not meaningful, then you're just creating brand fill. That product that gets straight from the manufacturer, has your logo stamped on it and ends up in a landfill. And that's a complete waste of time, money, and resources. So our strategic approach is really to create a product that the end user is going to keep and use and appreciate. And if I can do those three things, then I have a lasting impression. I have an opportunity to keep my message in their sphere of influence for the longest time and have the most influence on behavior and how they perceive my company, my organization, my initiative. Does that make sense?
It totally does.
If the object does not have the potential to be a favorite, and I'm going to use that in quotes, a favorite, you really shouldn't be spending money on it, because just because you've created another logoed bottle with your logo on it doesn't mean the end user is going to keep it, use, and appreciate it. Therefore, it's been a waste of your money to begin with.
To me, and you should see, like, right behind my computer right now, my couch, I have like this pile of stuff from conferences that sits there, and my kids every once in a while will pick from it to say, oh, I like this or I like that. But this got onto my desk. Right?
But it doesn't have to be big and expensive to be memorable. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. One of my favorite pieces of branded merchandise right now is still a decal, and it has been for 30 years. And that trend isn't going anywhere. And we put them, I remember about 15 years ago when I started seeing them all over laptops in executives' offices in Silicon Valley. And I thought, this is interesting.
Yeah.
And I wondered if it started just so that people could identify their computers going through security when we all had to start taking them out of our bags. And I realized, no, most of the executives that I'm seeing them on, they fly private. They don't even have that issue. This is 100% because they like the stickers.
Right.
And so, no, that is always do an amazing decal. Do something that's meaningful to the end user. Part of that strategy too is that it's the message that makes the merch matter, right?
Right. Yep.
But it's the merch that makes the message stick. I remember recently going through the CES. That is one of the biggest of all shows. And it is sensory overload constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And the booths are just these exquisite, immersive experiences. But hands down, the booth that I think of most often since going to CES, ironically, it's a big equipment manufacturer, Komatsu. And they had this big excavator, that they're working with the Japanese government for operating on the moon, and they have these underwater big dozers. And why am I thinking about that one the most often? Because they have really cool decals, and I actually have them sitting here on the corner of my desk. And so every time I come in and sit down, I'm just being reminded of it.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's the purpose of it, to bring something to remembrance. That's the point of anything promotional. I mean, especially when we're trying to do influence behavior and change.
Hmm.
Did I tell you about the fuel masters? Did I ever tell you about that
No,
case study?
no, no.
Okay. So I'm the daughter of a railroader, and there are
Okay.
many of them in my family, a couple of engineers that drive the trains, a couple of engineers that design railroad facilities. And I remember, a fuel master's mug that was on the workbench in the garage, and asking my dad
Yeah.
about that. What's that? And it was an employee-led initiative. The entire fuel masters program inside Union Pacific Railroad, that if we could stop just a little bit sooner, if you start stopping sooner, you could save a considerable amount of fuel. And to remind the engineers to be a fuel master, they created these awesome drinkware pieces to give to all of the engineers. And it had a profound effect, because when you're in the cab, when you see that logo all the time, you have that trigger, that reminder, that remembrance
Yes.
to make that behavioral change. And, just telling people about it isn't as powerful as telling them about it, giving them an object to anchor that message that's constantly in their realm of vision,
Yeah.
and really to make that happen.
And I have a feeling that train engineers drink a lot of coffee, so that mug is like right in front of them all the time.
Well, and here's the thing about drinkware too, is chances are there's probably more than one drinking vessel on your desk right now. I imagine there's going to
There
be your
are.
tea, and there's probably also water.
Yes.
And then if you're as busy as I am, sometimes there's your morning hot chocolate or hot tea from 5 hours ago that maybe hasn't quite made it to the dishwasher yet. And so throughout the day, you'll use multiple different items, which is, I think, why drinkware is so
Yeah.
popular.
Yeah.
You're
Actually,
using
my head of operations, we know she always assesses her desk to see how many half consumed drinks she has on the desk at the end of the day, and that's her rating of how crazy the day was. So
It's actually a really good test.
yeah, it is. It is. So I love the example of that example you just gave, because it was a change related initiative. And one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is when we go out and we do communications and we have interactions when it relates to change, we're always thinking about the emotional reaction around it, right? And creating a positive experience for the most part, right? That you can create all kinds of different emotions when you're going out there, but how do we instill that, or have that memory instilled more often, right? And that to me is where promotional swag comes into play. So how do you do that for your customers? Like how do you take what a customer is trying to achieve and have the right promotional good related to that?
I typically think of the products as ambassadors, and what's the best ambassador to deliver this message. And that really depends on what is the working environment of the people that we're trying to influence. For example, if you have somebody that's a desk jockey and they're spending all of their time in a cubicle,
Hmm.
then maybe a nice desk pad would make sense, but it's going to make zero sense to give a nice mouse pad or a desk pad to a train engineer. And so I always like to get into the lived experience of the person that you're trying to influence, and what is something that's going to really make sense for them. Everyday objects, something that they literally will use every day, is going to
Hmm.
have significantly more value, or something that has an emotional connection.
Yes.
So, when you and I talk about that card, I could have given you a business card, and I could
You
have
could
said
have.
some really nice words and
Yep.
given you my business card with my logo, and you'd have smiled, put it in your pocket, and it'd have gone with a stack of other, 200 or 300 business cards that you maybe intend to someday do something with.
Right.
Whereas having this sincere moment of connection, human to human, and just say, hey, I see you. You did this and it was awesome. And I can actually tell you that and give you that message. And that means more.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the work of Gary Chapman and the 5 love languages?
I am, but let's go through it. Yeah. But I don't know the audiences, so let's. I
Okay,
I
so we'll go
love
through
I love
different.
how educated you are on the topic too.
Oh, I totally geek out about these things. All right, well, first let's just start with the word love is supremely inadequate, because I love my dog, and I
Yeah.
love my car, and I love my job, and I love my child. And I love those 4 things very differently, but I've only got one word to describe it.
Yeah.
So when we're thinking about love, let's also thinking about belonging and feeling valued and feeling appreciated and feeling needed. So those are all going to be, synonymous with the word love when we talk about these 5 love languages. And that's why people innately feel valued or are receiving evidence that they're valued and appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
So there's obviously words of affirmation, you can say it. Acts of service, when you do something for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
There is, oh my goodness, I should have pulled up my slide deck. I didn't have this ready to go off the top of my head. Yeah, but words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, giving of gifts, these different things that you can do. And for the most part, all of them can only happen when you're face to face with somebody, unless it's a gift.
Right.
But all cultures have this gift giving as something that they do. It's a human nature thing. And then we give meaning to the gifts themselves, right? So we add on this emotional level as well. So words of affirmation is the only one that can also be done remotely. And if you want to make that physical, it becomes a card, which is now also a gift. So you're actually hitting both of them when you can layer them on. And so providing these, pieces of evidence that somebody can look at and remember and feel valued. And so that's evidence of belonging in their life, whether that's, evidence of a tremendous commitment in our culture is the wedding band, or some of those other tokens. And so it's very much human nature to provide an object to anchor an emotion or a feeling and to provide that recall and to serve as that recall trigger of something that matters.
Yeah, I love this. Okay. So foundationally, and you were like, we had lunch a couple weeks ago, and I walked away from that lunch and I was like, she knows her stuff. Like deep dive what you're talking about and how to approach this work. So when we think about what you were just mentioning, why does this work? What is the science behind what you do?
I think the biggest, is just the way humans make memory and how to, leverage every tool in your toolbox to help make something stick. So when you think about, the human body is the most exquisite information gathering instrument that has ever been created. Right? You are feeling so much in this moment, the air temperature in the room, the relative humidity, the texture of the seat underneath you. If there's a seam on your socks, there is so much data coming at you. And there was an amazing study. Oh my goodness, I can't remember his name. Noratanders, is that what it is? Oh, anyways, he's this amazing physicist. And he created this beautiful infographic about how much information the human body is processing through each of your 5 senses every second. And he equated it to, the bandwidth of computers, because we can understand that, right?
Yeah, right. It's relatable. So, yeah.
If you think about how much data we are absorbing visually in any second, basically that's the same amount of data is coming through a computer network. I mean, that is tons, huge volume. 1,200 megabytes per second of data that we are, aware of visually. Mm-hmm. And then you go down to how much are you aware of from touch. Yeah. And again, when you think about everything that your body's processing, whether or not you're aware of it, your body's gathering that data constantly. And then you have, smell and sound are the next ones. And then, that's about the bandwidth of your laptop computer. Your taste is your least powerful. It's about the bandwidth of an average calculator. That you look at this entire infographic, and I'll have to send it to you. So I would love that. And you can share it with your audience. Yeah. But at the very bottom of the screen is a little white dot, and that's how much we're actually aware of consciously. Yeah. About 0.7% of the data that we're consuming, which means that if I can put a logo or a message that matters on a mug that's on your desk, you're seeing that all the time, okay? You're not aware of it. It's part of that 97.3% of the data that your brain is constantly scanning for, but it's not consciously bringing to your attention. Right. But you are aware of it. a great experiment that I love to do at a conference with this data is I'll give them the data and I'll show them the infographic about how much they're aware of. And I'll just say, okay, if you want to see this in action, how many blue shirts are in the room? And watch, every single head will immediately turn to the one person in a bright blue shirt because they'd already visually categorized that. They already knew it. They were already aware of it. It just wasn't conscious yet. But when you're able to put this favorite item, either the desk mat or the coaster or the journal or the pen, and anything that's allowing people to absorb this information and this data multisensorily with their sense of touch, with their sense of taste and smell, and all of these senses all the time, you're able to exert more influence.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can find that everyday object that they're using every day, even though you're not consciously going to say, this is the mug from Crissy with her logo on it. Right. But all of that emotion is there all the time. And so when it does come time to make a decision, what for the engineers with the fuel masters in the cab of their locomotive, when it comes time to make that decision of, when am I going to brake? Should I stop now? Should I slow down now? It's not going to happen consciously. But when they have been, given some education, given some training, given something, and then given an object to anchor that message, now you can change behavior and now you can help them to accomplish a larger goal. And they also have that sense of appreciation when the token of appreciation is first given to them.
Yes, right.
That they're valued. They're a change agent and they're making something happen. They're part of something bigger. I mean, that's one of the other core uses of a promotional product is tribal identification.
Yeah, community. We talk about it all the time.
Well, no, I think, okay, nobody does this better than sports franchises.
Oh, yeah. Right.
On game day, even if I am not going to the game, even if I'm going to sit at home and watch it on my couch, I will still put on my shirt because then I feel a part of it, right?
Right.
And then after the game, you go to the grocery store, you go out to dinner, and you still got your shirt, and you see other people, and it's like, oh yeah.
Only if you want. You might take it off if you lost.
Exactly. But we like to feel part of something bigger.
Yeah. I love your thinking about the senses. I go back to my days at MGM where I learned that each of the MGM properties have a unique scent. So when you walk into the Bellagio has a scent that is all across the property, and you can actually buy that scent to take it home with you, which I thought was really brilliant. I bought some for my mom, and every time I would walk into my mom's house after that, I would automatically think of the Bellagio because that is the scent of that property and how much fun I had there and all the experiences I had there and the beautiful, displays of all the flowers that they have and for each season. Like all of those memories come back just from that scent.
Well, they say that scent is the most evocative of all of the sensory inputs and also one of the least utilized. I mean, it can be dangerous to play with because it is so evocative and powerful. And so it's going to trigger whatever the first impression memory was. But when you create kind of a layered or a more sophisticated scent like Bellagio can't go with chocolate chip cookies or vanilla.
No.
Right? They're going to blend multiple subtle scents into something that's so totally unique. And, I've had clients do some amazing things with scented candles and lip balms. And lip balms are so great because you can trigger both taste and fragrance with the same object without actually having to have a consumable item.
Yes.
So.
Oh, I love it. I was looking around my desk. I have a scented candle and 2 lip balms right in front of me right now. So it works in multiple ways. So I have 2 more questions for you. One is if I'm sitting in the seat of a procurement professional and I'm listening to this today, what questions should I be asking of my sales team and my marketing team to help understand the positioning of the promotional items?
What's difficult about promotional products is they truly do touch every single department within an organization.
Right.
And too often it gets siloed and you think, oh, that's a marketing item. And so it gets pigeonholed into marketing. And then when you actually look at your spend, the biggest users are actually HR and safety and new hire and recruiting programs.
Yep.
And so making sure you see the whole picture of everything that's touching. And then if you're really looking to, lower the overall cost of ownership of a promotional branded merchandise program,
Hmm.
making sure that you're consolidating spend as much as you can across departments. And your brand team is going to appreciate that too, because they can get a better handle on what's
Hmm.
being produced and making sure it is all consistent with the brand itself. And, you're creating good ambassadors.
Okay.
I have a lot of feelings about this, and creating fewer, more high quality items as opposed to
Right.
proliferating items. When you're doing drinkware, we talked about how people use a lot of different types of drinkware, but that doesn't mean everybody wants, 2 or 3 new branded mugs every year.
Yeah, right.
So designing the entire program, and then as procurement specifically, having visibility into what all of the different departments are doing and how to consolidate that spend to lower the cost overall. And, then taking advantage of some enabling technologies. Something that we see often happening is you'll end up with multiple vendors being managed by multiple different stakeholders and setting up multiple different stores for different functions or different microsites. And you can end up with a lot of people spending a lot of time in a category that can be centrally managed,
Yeah.
and have a better user experience for both the stakeholders within an organization and the brand team that's not having to then duplicate effort and create more products and, multiplying work instead of dividing it.
Right.
And
And having it be more strategic, right? At the end of the day, add more value to what you're trying to achieve.
yeah, and it's really easy to
Yeah.
see the product as a star of the show, right? Because that's front center stage. You can see it, touch it, feel it, engage
Right.
with it. But I like to think of promotional products as more of a production. And so think of that Broadway production. Yes, the product is the star on the stage, is the bright, shiny object, but your program is going to survive and thrive or fail utterly based on everything that surrounds it. The stage management, the logistics,
Yeah. The
start times,
lighting.
end times, the lighting, the
Yes.
sound, all of those different things. And there is a lot of logistics that goes into branded merchandise. I mean, on any given day, a program can have several hundred to several thousand SKUs coming from different factories, and you've got to worry about the entire supply chain, and not only, the consistency and the stability of the supply chain, but also how well the supply chain supports your, social, environmental, and governance commitments.
Yeah.
And can you track down, did this bag truly, is it sustainably sourced, sustainably manufactured, sustainably made, sustainably decorated, and sustainably distributed? And what does the end of life of this product look like?
Yeah. Right.
And so those are all things that procurement definitely cares about and that brand cares about. And again, where I view procurement, they're very much the stewards of what the brand says they're going to do and how it's going to be done. And so you have to think about all these details. And so it's making sure when you're engaging with your partners that they understand what matters most to the brand and that they're taking on a role in that stewardship as well when they're delivering the solutions to you, not just in the products they recommend, but how those products, get where they ultimately need to go.
Okay. Awesome. All right. My last question, and I'm going to give it to you for final parting words. But my last question for you is if someone's interested in learning more about the programs you offer, how do they get a hold of you?
They can obviously reach out to me on LinkedIn or via email. Can I give my email address? I don't
Yes.
know what your appropriate. Yes,
Yeah.
just
Yes.
email
Go for
me
it.
at cmanwaring, MANWARING at robertsonmarketing.com, or hit me up on LinkedIn. I always love to see people's faces. So
Yes.
it's fun to
Yeah.
connect there.
And you are going to be, are you at any further procurement related conferences this year? Or will we
Um,
see you on site?
we will be at ProcureCon Marketing, and I think I'm going to be able to attend some of the GWPP events this year, which
Yay!
I'm very excited about. It's such an amazing community. And I love participating in communities where learn and share are such an integral part of the organization. And you see people helping one another and solving these complex problems. So hopefully I'll see folks at a couple of those dinners as well as at some ProcureCon events throughout the year.
Okay, awesome. Well, I will put a link to GWPP down below. So if anyone's curious about that, and I'll also put a link to your website. So Robertson Marketing, I'm going to say it right. Robertson Marketing website is down below. So final parting words. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with the audience today that I did not cover in my questions?
No, just embrace the fun. I mean,
Oh,
this is one of the funnest categories ever to get to manage. It can be incredibly complex, but embrace the power of promotional products by embracing the fun of promotional products. And their power is a human to human connector when the people can't be there face to face. It's that evidence and that reminder that you
oh,
matter.
oh, I love that. Hey, right back to the beginning. You matter.
You got it.
You matter. Okay. Thank you so much for being with us today. If you loved what you saw today from Crissy, please reach out to her, connect with her on LinkedIn. And also, if you loved this video, hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss another tea time with our special guests along the way. So cheers, Crissy. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Amanda.
Stopping. Okay.